stop कैसे करूं? हैं?
नहीं सर
रिकॉर्ड yes sir ऑडियो पे क्लिक करें
वीडियो बिकम सम
सर दोबारा
अब ये कैमरा ऑन हो गया
कैमरा रिकॉर्डिंग बंद कर दूं? रिकॉर्डिंग कैसे बंद करनी है अभी?
सर इस पे क्लिक कर कैमरे पे
कैमरे पे कहाँ है?
ये है वीडियो इस पे क्लिक कर सकते
वो तो वीडियो बंद होगी ना, रिकॉर्डिंग की बात कर रहा हूँ। एक सेकंड, हाँ ठीक है, मैं देख
Recording
लिया
सारी
रिकॉर्डिंग।
बस-
हाँ ये सही है रिकॉर्डिंग विदाउट, इसको पॉज कर दूं ना? Okay, guys, so let's start with the session. Welcome for today's session on the anatomy of a killer pitch. We are thrilled to have you guys with us as we deep dive into, learning the art of pitching, which not only grabs attention, but also leaves a lasting impact. Today, we have the privilege of learning from one of the best in business. Welcome, Mariam, for the session. So Mariam is the founder and CEO of Breshna.io. She is a groundbreaking no-code, so now the Breshna.io is a groundbreaking no-code platform that empowers users to create, share, and monetize their own bite-sized video games. So it's more like Canva for games, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So Mariam's mission is nothing short of revolutionary. So unleashing the power of, snackable video games for education, marketing, and social impact. Now, Mariam has over a decade of experience in EdTech international development sectors, and she's passionate advocate for using video games as the transformative medium. Her work has, gathered significant recognition and traction as she has secured over $2.6 million in seed funding from prominent investors, including Paris Hilton, Randy Zuckerberg, Blockchain Founders Fund, and Table Management. In addition to her impressive entrepreneurial achievements, Mariam holds 2 master's degrees in economics and international development. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mariam Nusrat. Mariam, over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kamran. Hi, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. I know it's a little bit late at your end, so thanks for hanging. I am Mariam Nusrat. I'm the founder and CEO of Brashna.io. I'm dialing in from Washington, D.C. So I'm excited to join you on this Monday morning and kick off my Monday morning with you guys. I think, Kamran, thank you so much for that introduction. And I think one of the things that I've realized in my founder journey is storytelling and pitching is one of the most important aspects. Like if you were to say, what are the 3 most important things you do as a founder? I would actually say storytelling and pitching is very high on them, right? I mean, you can delegate product development, you can delegate the process of, digital marketing, someone can create content, someone can build the product, someone can do all of the other, like your legal, your accounting, your bookkeeping, all of that can be delegated. But the thing that you cannot delegate is the fire in your belly and the passion that you have for your project, right? So that's not something that you can just hire someone for and be like, hey, you know what, you're going to fundraise, you're going to talk to investors while I go build the product. So I think storytelling is something that everyone has to learn. And this is not something where you're like, oh, I'm not a people's person, or I'm an introvert, so I don't want to do this. There's no such thing. Everyone has imposter syndrome. The only way to fight imposter syndrome is through confidence. And confidence comes through practice. So there's no one was born being like, I am the best public speaker of the century. Like I have worked, I've given 2 TEDx talks, I've done a bit of public speaking. And every single time I've worked with coaches that have coached senators, presidents, the big idea is always practice, practice, practice. So what we're going to do today is dive into the anatomy of a killer pitch. I'd love to hear some pitches. I think we have some lined up. But before I put you on the spot, I want to put myself on the spot. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 2-minute pitch to you. A lot of it might be what you just heard from Kamran, but I think what is really valuable is as you listen to my pitch, feel free to, I mean, this is not perfect, this is a work in progress, right? So feel free to tell me what are the things that you think that resonated with you, what didn't. You can, I feel like, Kamran, they can use the chat function, so we'll keep this interactive. But let me just kind of dive into it, and then I'll tell you where all I've used this pitch. But I really just wanted to be like, I don't want to be one of those people who just sits on this side and like, gives you a whole lecture. I wanna follow what I preach. So let me see if I can do this 2-minute pitch. It's been a while I've done it. So let's see if we can do a 2-minute pitch. So Kamran, I'm gonna have you time me. So we're gonna
Sure. So what we're gonna do is,
2 minutes.
sure, why not? We can use the timer here as we have.
Here or just your
time.
phone. I mean, that's fine too.
Okay, fine, no
Whatever.
problem.
It'll be like, it doesn't have to be like a big thing, but just like, let's just set 120 seconds and see where we go from there.
Alrighty, so we are, so ready when you are, so let me know when you're ready.
All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Did you know that you can make your own video games in less than 15 minutes? Hi, I'm Mariam Nusrat, and I'm transforming the gaming industry so that people like you and I can make our own games without writing a single line of code. Now, games are powerful communication tools. The impact that they leave on our brains far transcends the virtual boundaries in which we play them, and yet we do not see games being mainstream for purposes beyond entertainment. The reason for that is time, money, and skills. It's always money. So games are complicated, time-consuming, and costly to build. Until now, our platform, Breshna.io, creates games with no code, at low cost, and at lightning speed. The word Breshna actually means lightning in the Pashto language, which is my mother tongue. So think about a teacher that wants to make math learning fun. She can create her own run and catch game where kids are catching even numbers and dodging odd numbers and having a blast. Or a business owner can make a puzzle game, a jigsaw puzzle game, where you're unveiling a new discount code. It's almost like the Canva for purposeful games. Since inception 3 years ago, we've made mad progress. 180,000 registered game makers that have created over 160,000 video games with more than 2 million gameplays, and $2.6 million raised from investors like Paris Hilton and Randy Zuckerberg. Now, the journey for Breshna might just be beginning, but I have more than a decade of experience in the gaming and education space. For this work, I've been recognized by the Clinton Foundation, the Forbes Next 1000 Entrepreneur List, and the Web Summit Foundation. I'm doing this work with a team of 25 developers and designers, and we're on a journey to empowering the next 100 million people so they can tell their stories through video games. The question is, are you game? We have 17 seconds to go. Thank you.
Amazing job, Breshna. You are the best in business, and we would love to hear more about how you developed this skill of pitching, how it started for you, your journey, and then we can come straight to the topic. So we can start first with about your journey, how your journey from working, in corporate sector, working for the World Bank, and then coming into entrepreneurial, journey. So how did it started, and did pitching come naturally to you, or do you have to work on it? So we can start from there. And thank you.
Awesome. So quick recap, quick background on me. So basically, I am an economist by academic training. So born in Quetta, raised in Islamabad, studied at LUMS, then lived in Karachi for a bit, and then moved to the US in Washington, DC. And basically what I did was I was working at the World Bank. My Baba, when I was in 3rd grade, put 3 logos in front of me. And he's like, you're going to do your bachelor's from LUMS, your master's from London School of Economics, and then you're going to be an economist at the World Bank. So very Asian, very tiger parent of him. Everything was like, charted out. And I was like, boom, boom, boom. I actually did end up doing all of those and threw in another master's from GW in the process. But when I was at the World Bank, I was one of the youngest senior economists at the bank. So for me, I had met my goals, my Baba's goals. Like I was there, I had a good career. The bank is not just a job, it's a career, it's a very privileged career. And I was very, very honored and blessed from Allah to have that. But I think it was actually in one of my second master's degree classes that I started getting really obsessed with this idea of video games for positive behavior change. So I had grown up playing games like SimCity, where I was learning about urban planning without even knowing I was learning about urban planning, right? And I kept thinking, I'm like, we work in international development, we work on health, financial literacy, climate action. But every time we want to change behaviors, we're like, here's a brochure. Jao jaake ye padho, and then go change your behavior. That's not how behavior change works, right? The thing with video games is they're iterative, they're engaging, they're inspiring, and that's why they have an impact on our behaviors. So as part of a student project, we created a very simple game. So I mean, again, I'm non-tech myself. I called up my brother, who's based out of Islamabad, who's like really the doer. I'm just a talker, but he is the person behind all of this action. Our team of developers and designers are also Pakistan based. So I called him up and I was like, hey, you know what? We're going to make a stereotypes game, like a game to wipe stereotypes. And that's going to be our first game. And we're just going to make that and let's see where it goes and everything. We made that game. We made a reproductive health game. We made a couple of other games. And this ended up getting the attention of the Clinton Foundation. I mean, after some traction, I ended up presenting on stage with President Clinton. All of a sudden, things start gaining momentum. Now, something to capture out of this is success does not happen overnight. This was 11 years ago, right? So 11 years ago, came up with an idea. It was a student project. And we just started doing it on the side. So we were just like, everyone had their own jobs. Rizwan, my brother, was working in 18. I was working at the World Bank. Everyone was like, had their jobs. And even all our developers, they would all just like kind of do it on the side, right? So everyone has a side gig. We have a gaming studio. We're making games for USAID, UN, climate action games, financial literacy games, and COVID-19 hits. And we're like, yo, the demand for interactive educational tools, interactive communication tools, everyone's looking for online engagement. Everyone's looking for videos, animation, video games. How can we take this to another level? And that's where we realized that the kinds of games we were making were the same. So whether you're catching, plastic bottles and dodging, or whether you're catching even in odd numbers, the game mechanic was the same. Super Mario kind of game, tile matching game, word games, blah, blah. So we're like, why don't we build a Canva-like platform? Why don't we build the Canva for video games and remove ourselves from the equation? So if you think of it, we put ourselves out of a job by saying, hey, don't engage us, go build your own games. And that, guys, is such an important mind shift that needs to happen. If you are a service-based studio, if you are a developer studio, or you do service-based work, VC capital will not back you because it's not scalable. It might be profitable, and that's very, very good for you, because building a bootstrap profitable service-based business is a hard thing. But if you want venture capital, they're going to look for scale. They're going to say, Uber did not go and buy cars. Airbnb did not go and buy hotels. They created a platform. They became a third party. So we made the platform where we said, you can make your own video games. And that was the birth of Rashna. And that was 3 years ago. And then I gave myself a target of $1 million in VC funding before I would quit my job. So again, this whole idea of quit your job in day one, blah, blah. I'm not the developer. I'd rather put all that money. So I worked without a salary for the first full year so that all that money could go towards product development, towards the developers, because I didn't need a salary to keep me motivated. I knew that I saw a tomorrow along with my co-founders where I was like, all right, this is what we're going to build. This is the vision we see. What TikTok did for video, what Canva did for design, we're going to do for video games. So that was kind of the birth of Rashna 3 years ago. And now, mashallah, we've seen a ton of traction, a ton of progress. But with the startup, the best bit is it's literally like playing a video game. You can get to level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. But if you fail that level, game over, you start all the way all over again, right? So, I mean, it's just a new challenge, new boss at the end of every level. And we're just tackling the bosses as they come. But yeah, that's me.
It's an amazing journey, like which you mentioned that absolutely COVID happened, and a lot of things like we are using Zoom now. We never thought that Zoom was going to be such massive, success. All have happened in COVID. A lot of businesses, basically, those who shut down, new business came up. So let's come straight to the topic. And so pitching. So how did the pitching start? How did you become so good at it? So how we can start with that?
Yeah, 100%. So I think, when you think about starting a business, right? Like you're like, okay, I need developers and I'm going to start building my product. But Alexis Ohanian, that's Serena Williams' husband, he's the founder of Reddit, a big VC. One of the things he talks about that resonated with me so hardcore was a minimum viable community, even before you have a minimum viable product. And by that, what he means is start talking about your work, start talking about your community way before you even start building, right? That validation, if you go and you sit in your basement and you come out after 14 months with a product and you're like, voila, now the world will come to me. I've built the next Facebook. Buddy, I'm so sorry, but that's not how the world works, right? Build it and they will come is not a thing. You have to get that hand on the pulse from day one. So what I started doing was, I mean, look, when I started, I didn't know the difference between a VC and an angel. I just literally self-taught myself on Twitter and YouTube. I would get there and I would join these pitch rooms where they would have like, I mean, again, this was COVID, no one had anything to do. So people were on Twitter and Clubhouse and they would do these pitch rooms and I would jump on any opportunity I would get to pitch my idea. And so slowly and slowly, I was A/B testing my pitch. What are the things that resonate? What are the things that don't resonate, right? So it's like, I mean, if I'm saying Canva for video games, when can I say TikTok for video games? Is it a different audience? What example should I give for my, so when I'm saying, hey, it could be a teacher that makes a Super Mario kind of game, what example am I giving? What makes it really crystal clear and everything, right? It's like, what's my hook? So I think I really had to A/B test it. And then the most important thing is often people think you only pitch to investors. But actually, you pitch to customers, you pitch to investors, you pitch to team members. When you're getting people on your team, why are they going to work at your startup when they can go work at Telenor or something, right? It's like, I mean, you're competing with the corporate sector when you're a startup founder. So when you're building your team, why would they bother working for you? That's when you're pitching to them. You're pitching to your friends, you're pitching to your family. Pitch should be something that you can do in your sleep, right? And this is not just one pitch. You need a 60-second pitch, a 2-minute pitch, a 5-minute pitch, and a 20-minute pitch. And you need to know each of those. What I just gave you, the 2-minute pitch, that didn't come. I'm not some eloquent person who just woke up being like that. I have learned this thing by heart, word to word. And I have different versions of it. So it's almost like an IKEA furniture, where at different times, if people ask me about my traction, I know exactly the words I'm going to use so that when I'm talking to them, I'm not spending time being like, yeah, don't. All of those, you lose traction. If you do that, you're not going to be able, if you don't sound passionate, if you don't sound confident, it's not going to work. So for me, it's been this idea of practice, practice, practice. And one way I practice is I actually say my pitch to myself on WhatsApp and I record myself as an audio. And then I repeat that audio to myself. And that's when I'm like, wow, Mariam, that sounded really lame, or that sounded really cool, right? So you are your own best critic. You are your own best judge. If you're not getting it, they're not going to get it. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's dissect this. Let's do, now we go straight into doing this anatomy of a killer pitch. So what are the basic ingredients in your opinion? Because over here, what we do with our founders, we follow a certain curriculum. We have Founder Institute as our curriculum partners, and over there, what do we do? The startups, they go through an hot seat. So for all the sessions, what happens, hot seat is 60 seconds. So in which there's a certain format they have to follow. Then we had a lot of other sessions that we took place, which are also part of the curriculum. So it's a 3-minute pitch. They have done 3-minute pitch. They have also done recently done an investor progress review, which was a 5-minute pitch. So initially, when we were, incubating, we were going through the final judging round. It was an 8-minute pitch, and most of the startups could not even 8-minute was too less for them. Yeah. But now, over the course of 2 to 3 months since they have been with us, they have now improved. Now they know that, okay, if they can do a 60-second pitch, so they can also do a 3-minute, they can also do a 5-minute, they can also do an 8-minute, right? But again, what are the things that the core things that, and what is the pattern in which they should start, in your opinion? Because you have been pitching to investors, you have been pitching to your customers, you have been interacting with a lot of VCs as well. What are they looking for? And so, and what are the things that should be that should be in a pitch, whether it's a 2-minute or whether it's a 20-minute pitch? So, yeah, what do you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing, just to say in the chat, I just shared my 60-second pitch. This is a pitch that I did on the Entrepreneur Elevator Pitch Show, which is a TV show where they literally put you in an elevator and you pitch to 3 judges. One of them is Mark Randolph, who's the founder of Netflix. And then it's very gimmicky, very good TV. At the end of the 60 seconds, you get one shot, you do your 60-second pitch, and then they decide whether they want to call you up or down the boardroom. So they can call you up to the boardroom to strike a deal, which, Allah, like with the blessings of Allah, we were able to do, or they just send you down, which means your pitch wasn't good enough. So for anyone who's like, oh, I missed it or whatever, I have a better version of that in there. I think what you're saying, Kamran, is really important, right? Is like what makes a good pitch. So let's split that up into 2 pieces. So let me talk about that elevator pitch, which is 60-second, 2-minute, 3-minute, whatever that is, right? Like that abridged version. And then let's talk about an investor phone call, because I think that's also an important element of this. So I think for me, there are 3 pieces of a pitch. And then there's like a sub piece of the second piece, but let's go over the big 3 pieces. One is your hook, then your structure, and then your silence, your pauses. So let's go into the first thing, the hook. That first, even if it's 60 seconds, it is so easy to bore people in 60 seconds. Those first 5 seconds are so important. And it's okay if you go cliche with those. Like I do the, did you know that you can make your own video game in less than 15 minutes? That's okay. And I mean, so you don't have to do like a whole like, oh my God, let me come up with the biggest hook. You just need to get them. Like, it's almost like, even if they don't want to listen, something like, did you know, or like capture them in. That's exactly where their brain will respond to you even before they do the decision making of whether or not they want to respond to you. But what's important here is something that I've seen other founders do, and I don't think it's a good idea, is, you know how people are like, raise your hand if you have ever taken an Uber or something. I actually don't think that works well if you have 60 seconds, because you're leaving things to uncertainty. Number one, what if no one raises their hand? Raise your hand if you've ever been in a doctor's waiting office or something. What if no one raises their hand? What if you are leaving room for uncertainty? The other problem is you've now wasted 4 seconds, someone raising their hand, someone not. And then it's really, really sad when like you don't get the audience response, because guess what, guys? You've not had the opportunity to build a rapport with them. They don't owe you any engagement till they owe you engagement, right? It's like, I mean, don't expect them to engage with you to hype you up in the first 3 seconds of your pitch. So I don't do that. I don't be like, hey, how many of you here have ever built a video game? No, boom, forget that. No need. Into 60 seconds, you don't have the time. So keep it for you, like pose a question without really posing a question. So did you know, those kind of questions are good ones. So did you know you can make your own video game in less than 15 minutes? Hi, I'm Mariam Nusrat, blah, blah, blah. I'm empowering people so that people like you and I can make our own video games without writing a single line of code, right? That's my hook. Then let's go into the structure. Now your structure, whether it's 60 seconds or whatever, I had this, like the pitch I just did for you, I literally have 20 seconds assigned to each of these. There's the intro. Who are you? And what are you building, right? So I'm Mariam Nusrat, I'm the founder and CEO of Breshna.io, right? Like that's an important one. Don't leave that to a later thing, because they need to know who Mariam is and who Breshna is. Then get immediately to the problem. And guys, I think there's a lot of VCs that have very strong opinions about whether you're going to do solution first, problem first, traction first, team first. I don't care. Do what works for you, but make sure that you hit on it, right? It's like, I mean, do your intro, do your problem. So my problem is video games are powerful communication tools, but they're expensive, complicated, and time consuming to build, right? If anyone over here wants to make a video game, what's the first thing you think of? Oh, let me go find a developer. Let me go find a studio. I'm saying, hey, we all know that games are powerful communication tools, but we can't unleash that power because there are these time, skills, and cost barriers. So let's remove those. So that's the problem I've started. Now the solution is I'm breaking those barriers. Time, skills, cost barriers, I've removed those with our platform, Breshna.io, right? Then it's really useful to give an example. I cannot tell you how many people have told me that the most important part of my pitch is actually that teacher example. Imagine a teacher making a math game where you're catching even numbers and dodging odd numbers. What that has done for me is it has spoken to a user profile. It's spoken to the type of video games you can make, right? So it said, hey, this is not a World of Warcraft. She's simply talking about a Super Mario like run and catch game, right? So now they're visualizing the product without touching my product. I see so many founders who get in an elevator and pull out their phone and start trying to use the product. They're like, let me show you right now. And then the product doesn't work, or it gets stuck, or it's loading. And guess what? The elevator has arrived. You've lost the person, right? The onus is on you to build that picture in the first 60 seconds. That's not going to be your product. This is not the time for your product to show off. This is the time for you to show off. You are the product, you are the deck, you are the pitch, okay? And then there's traction. Why should people care, right? I say we have 180,000 registered game makers that have created over 160,000 video games, completed video games with over 2 million gameplays. People are like, whoa, this person's up to something, right? Like there's that. We've raised $2.6 million from investors like Paris Hilton and Randy Zuckerberg. I saw a very valid question in the chat. What does this pitch sound before you get the funding and the traction? Guys, traction is whatever you make of it. Traction could be, I sat in a room with 100 people and this is the focus group I did. We have 100 people that say that they're going to pay for this. We have $3,000 in monthly revenue. It does not matter. What matters is if you think it's a big deal, make it a big deal, right? Like so many people can be like, oh, that's only 180,000. Why is it not 1 million? If like kide nikalne ho, to you can do that with anything, right? And everything. The purpose of this is to back it up. So traction, lean into your network, lean into your experience, whatever your strength is, which you will have strengths even on day one. Go with that, lead with that, okay? So that's your traction. And then finally, it's the why you. So you know how I say, while the journey for Prashna is just beginning, I have more than a decade of experience in education, in gaming. And then this is the time to show off. Guys, this was the thing I was the most uncomfortable with. Humility is something, especially I think as immigrants, it really comes naturally to us. We're very like, tone it down. Don't be like, don't be so loud. Don't be a show off. But if there's one day to show off, that's that elevator pitch. Bring it out, show it off with everything you've got. So be like, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, hey, you know what? You want Clinton, you want Forbes, you want Web Summit, you want Entrepreneur Elevator Pitch. I'm going to throw all of these brands at you because that's going to help build validity and credibility. Why do you guys think you should be listening to me right now? Right? Oh, because you're like, oh, if she's presented on stage with President Clinton, she must know something about what she's doing. So all of a sudden, I've built credibility. All of you have that. You could be like, I'm a part of NIC Islamabad. That's totally fine. I graduated from one of the top 5 universities in Pakistan. I got a 3.9 on my GPA. Does not matter what it is. You've done something right in life to be where you are today. Lean into that. Lean into your superpowers. Or you know what? I'm the hardest working person that you'll ever meet. I'm okay with that, right? Lean into whatever. It doesn't even, if you can't find it to be substantial, be like, I will turn every adversity into an opportunity. This is how, I don't know, I lost my house and this is how I came back, right? And everything. Like, give one example that builds your credibility. And then finally, and the most important thing is your call to action. What did you do all of this for? What are you looking for? Are you looking for an investment? Are you looking for people to use your product? And this is something I didn't do in my pitch today. That 17 seconds that was left is usually when I put in my ask. My ask could be, hey, for every startup over here, let's make a game together. I can make you a game in $500 with your logo, with your products, with your placement. That I just made my ask to each and every single one of you, right? Do that. Because you've done all this work and then you walk away with it being like, I gave a great pitch. Congratulations. It did nothing for you because they don't know how to help you. Help them help you, whether it's an investment, whether it's an ask, any of that. So that, guys, in hook, structure. So structure is intro, problem, solution, example, traction, why you, call to action. Okay. Final piece. And then I'm going to stay quiet because this is exactly what that's about. Silence. You will be amazed at the power of a pause. When you're doing a 60-second pitch, and for someone like me who talks really fast, if I just keep going at the speed of light, at some point you're going to zone me out because it's this constant. But all of a sudden, if I pause, you're going to be like, wait, what happened? Did she hang? Like, what happened, right? And you're going to come back to me. That's what I need to do, right? Realize where I am. So video games are powerful communication tools. Making them is timely, costly, and complicated. Until now, our platform, Breshna.io, creates games with no code at zero cost and at lightning speed. So until now, I gave you the space to come back to me. And that's when I then went into the most important part, which is what my platform does, right? So 60 seconds is a very long time, guys. It's long enough to take a 3-second breather. Take that 3-second breather because it might be the impactful thing that you do in the whole 57 seconds that's left for you. So yeah, that's the anatomy of what I think might be a good pitch.
Amazing stuff. I hope our startups, they have already been taking a lot of notes, and I think they have already, and this guy is gonna be the first one to pitch. So I think without further ado, obviously we can have Q&A session later on, but I think let's go for some pitches from the startups, right? And so it's going to be a 2-minute pitch by the startups. We're going to put a timer, all right? And they're going to give their pitch. And then you can give your feedback on each pitch. And then in the end, we'll have a Q&A session. So the very first pitch, we're going to welcome Salman. Salman is sitting right next to me. And he's going to start. So I'm going to put on the timer. And then all the very best, Salman. Yeah. All right. So there is the time. And you can give your introduction, say hello, and then if you can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, fantastic. And
all right. Okay. So Salman.
Yeah.
So your time starts now.
Assalamu alaikum ji. Did you know that in Pakistan, somewhere about 97,500 people came last year to Pakistan and generated a $1.3 billion revenue? And somewhere in 50 million local domestic tourists traveled across Pakistan, according to the UN. But when it comes to trip planning, this is a very difficult process. We still rely on calling a person and asking him, hey, can you please confirm my reservation? Hey, can you tell me if the washrooms are clean? Now, this is a huge problem in a market. Now, according to the government, 50 to 65% of the market is not documented and not automated, which creates fragmented experiences for the user and for the business that are unable to keep up with the tech-savvy users that we have today. And what happens for the government, that they're unable to provide the right policy measures. And this is where we come in. I'm Salman Nasir. I'm part of Truly Pakistan. I'm the CTO. And what we have developed is a SaaS-based service where we provide the business users with the SaaS-based service where we integrate, automate, and elevate the products. And we tell them how to do these things. We create an ease of use for business, and we make their lives easier so that they can focus on the business while we focus on managing their processes. Now, let's talk about the industry. The industry currently stands at about $19 billion. It is expected to grow by $30 billion by the end of 2033, which makes it a huge market. But however, there are only 15,000 players in this market. And again, there's a lot of space which we're trying to fill. The market is expected to grow at somewhere about 10.6%. We are targeting a small chunk of them, which is about $132 million. We're very excited about this. And the reason we are the right fit for this is that we have a background in design, multimedia. We have a team member who has a design in CRMs, and we are the techie passionate people who love this. We're pre-revenue at the moment. We love what we do. We've worked on promoting Pakistan, and we want support where we want a seed funding of $70,000 so that we can make an impact and put Pakistan on the map and, and make more avenues for tourism. So thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Okay, so 4 seconds remaining. So
Very
just in 2 minutes. Okay, Mariam, over to you for your feedback, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. And that was Salman.
Yes,
Yes, Salman.
thank you, madam. Thank you.
Very, very cool, Salman. I think you have the bases down, right? So you did the hook really well. You had the intro. You presented the problem really well, and then you went into your solution. I would almost say the first minute of your pitch. So I'm going to be, okay. So guys, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be very candid and brutal. So if I was just going to be like, I'm a judge and I'm going to rank this, really good pitch, right? I mean, it's a strong pitch, especially the stage at which you're at, you're sorting. But that's not going to help you. Let me tell you where you can make this better, right? So so the first minute of your pitch is almost like the stronger half. Your first half is the stronger half. Your second half is where I'm like, okay, there's a few points where you're losing me. Let me tell you where. So when you started, I was like, whoa, I get that. Like, I get that this is about tourism. And I really like the word trip planning, because all of a sudden in my head, I'm like, yeah, I see that. Like when I go to Pakistan, it's like, hey, like, where am I going to stay? Where it's all fragmented was a really good word. You used that. You said fragmented trip planning. That was really well done, right? The thing though, is I think there were two sections of your problem where I think you went into the government. There was something that you started with the government, like, you know, it's like, I would almost like, that is almost something you can keep. So this is the difference between your 2 minute and your, you know, it's like your longer pitch, your 5 minute pitch. So it's like, I almost feel like stop the problem. When you said trip planning is fragmented, I get you, I'm with you. Unless government is one of your customers, or government is a very important player, because that's where I'm going to get to, is like, let's understand what's happening there. Then I would be like, okay, mention the government. Otherwise, like, you know, you've done that first part really good, stop there. Then the one thing, guys, I'm going to say, SaaS based CR, like, I mean, then you just threw a bunch of jargon at me, right? So then it was like, okay, my platform is a SaaS based, you know, something, and then like a bunch of stuff came at me. Talk to me like I'm a 4-year-old, right? Because right now my attention span, I'm listening to you, but as an investor, I'm also thinking about where I'm going to have lunch, and then, you know, that other due diligence I need to do with that investor. There are so many points where I'm going to dip. So you need to make it so simple. Like, the one thing I couldn't do is visualize the platform. Like in my head, this sounds like Expedia, right? And that's okay. Maybe it's the Expedia for Pakistan. But the fact that I didn't get that is a lost opportunity. And unfortunately, that's not on me, that's on you, right? So, you know, I mean, one of the things, and maybe often what happens with me is I'm like, were you even listening? I said that. Like I mentioned that in my pitch, but they weren't listening, right? And everything. So remember to reiterate. And the best thing to do actually is to have people reverse pitch you. So like right now, I'm trying to reverse pitch you. I'm saying, okay, you are fixing trip planning is broken. That's a big problem. I like that. Like, you know, but now I'm like struggling. Like when I'm reverse pitching to you, I'm struggling with what the platform looks like, this SaaS space. It's cool you mentioned SaaS. Everyone's a SaaS right now. Like, you know, it's like, I mean, these technical words, these like CRM, SaaS, multilingual language, large language learning models. I mean, really cool story, but it's like at some point you need to dumb it down. That's why I'm like, it's a teacher who makes a run and catch game to catch even numbers and dodge odd. Now, I'm not like, it's a templatized game maker, no code game maker platform that's driven by text to game, you know, AI powered language learning models. I didn't say any of that, right? I was just like, you know, this is what it is. Then the other thing I'm going to do is, and this might be something that you've been taught in the curriculum. So sorry, Kamran, if this is any controversial advice. I believe the idea of TAM, SAM, SOM, which is the 19, like, you know, it's a $19 billion industry. We're capturing 10.6% of it. So we're going to be at 132 million. That is really good when you have, you know, remember how we were saying there's a investor call. Great job. Put it in that deck. The elevator pitch is, again, the opportunity to talk. You can talk about the promise of this without getting so much into the weeds. One of the things, you guys are going to listen to it, the pitch that I share, when the judges at the end of it, they were like, I heard so many numbers, my brain is going around, right? Because think about it. You had a number in your first line, then you had another number, then you had a government number, then you had a TAM, TOM, SAM number, right? I'm lost. I'm like, which one is it? Like, which one do you want me to walk away with, right? And everything. So I think I would almost that 10.6%, 10,000, 132 million, leave that out of there, right? And everything. Like, there's no need. I do like that you say you're pre-revenue, but when you say pre-revenue, maybe add something like we're post-product. We've built our product. It's being used by X amount of people. And at the moment, we're pre-revenue, which is what we're which is why we're looking for seed funding. So when you say pre-revenue, it almost sounded like you were apologetic about it. No, forget that. Was like, you know, I mean, not profitable for the longest time. Clubhouse was pre-revenue for 4 years, right? There is no reason to apologize for being pre-revenue. But I would say, just like, I like that you're situating for the investor where you stand, but just do it in a way of being like, hey, we built the product, and count it out, right? I've built the team, I've built the product, we have X amount of users, we're expanding this way, and right now we're pre-revenue, hoping to be profitable by XXX. So answer those questions, because right now I'm just left thinking you're pre-revenue. Well, that sucks, you know, that kind of a thing. But honestly, really good. And the last thing I would say is closing is almost like you trailed off in your closing. Like, you know, you were like, you had 4 seconds left, but you were like, and yeah, and that's kind of what we're building. And then like, you know, like, thanks for listening. And then da, 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 da. I would almost like close with the same enthusiasm that you opened with, right? So like, that's why I'm like, we're empowering the next 100 million people so they can tell their stories through video games. The question is, are you game? That's a very like, people are always like, oh, are you game? I am game. Like, I mean, it's gimmicky. That's fine. But that's what like people like. But overall, great job. Sorry about the tons of feedback, but I hope it's useful. Good job. Okay, very cool.
Actually, I just want to say something.
Yeah.
So,
You can.
oh, sorry. So I just wanted to say something. When you were giving your pitch, I was like, I don't want to pitch because your pitch had no numbers, and it was because that's one of the challenges which I faced with the curriculum, because I don't want to use numbers because numbers tend to confuse people, and I did understand. Yeah. And but then at the same time, I had developed the pitch, so I was a bit reluctant because I didn't want to develop a new script in front of you.
That's fair. That's fair. And you might look for the NIC demo day. You might want to stick to the numbers. That's why there's not one pitch. There's many pitches.
Yeah.
I have a different pitch for demo days. I've gone through 3 accelerators. I'm not going to be like, no, this is broken. I'm not going to follow your rules. Play by the book. Put in the numbers.
Yeah.
If that's what the criteria for judging is, then meet that criteria, right? But then have your option B, option C, option D pitch in your head where you're like, now I'm just talking to someone on the street. They don't care about my TAM and all of that. So let's go to that.
Yeah.
So this is what I meant by the IKEA modular furniture. Literally have like different versions of your pitch so you can replace in blocks. So it's almost like it comes together in blocks, and not every block belongs to one particular pitch.
Yeah, thank you. That's a lot of feedback, and this is really helpful. I mean, I enjoy this thoroughly.
I'm
All
glad.
right. Thank you, Salman.
Kamran, I think you went on mute.
Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
Now I can. Yes. You're on mute.
Okay. No, I wasn't mute, but anyways, I don't know what happened. So the next page, Uzair, are you online?
Hi, yes, I'm online. Can you hear me and see me?
All right, Uzair. So same, we're gonna use the same words. We have 2 minutes, and when I say start, that's when you start. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So Uzair, your time starts now.
Hi, this is Uzair Siddiqui, founder of Plankly. So Plankly is an e-commerce marketplace that enables super apps to launch an e-commerce feature within their app to their large user base. Last year in the US, TikTok launched an e-commerce feature, and this year they're looking at a $17.5 billion in gross merchandise value. Many more super apps, just like TikTok, globally are looking to launch an e-commerce feature, but they cannot run the e-commerce business. Many of them, they either transfer the user to another website, or many of them who allow it in their app, they have a high merchant acquisition cost. This is where Plankly comes into play with its unique interoperable business model. So any product that gets uploaded on the Plankly's marketplace is instantly visible to all the users of all the super apps that connect with Plankly. This significantly reduces the merchant acquisition cost, and all the savings can then be passed down to the consumers on the app in the form of discounts. Other than managing the technology, Plankly ensures that customers get a tip-top experience by managing the sellers and the deliveries. We are launching in Pakistan next month with a few super apps, looking at a 10 million plus user base and 650 merchants. Considering the traction we are getting in Pakistan, we expect to get a $100 million valuation by year 3. We are not currently looking for any investments, but are actively seeking for more partners to join and make e-commerce more approachable, relatable, and reliable in Pakistan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you have like 25 seconds left.
Right.
And okay, Mariam, over to you for the feedback.
Very cool. So first of all, Uzair, once again, really good pitch, very clear. You got the problem across really, really well, right? When you were like, especially when you went into it and you were like, imagine like TikTok, like if you want to build like e-commerce within your super app, it's usually, I hadn't even thought of that. And I was like, that makes a ton of sense. Like that looks like a big gap that needs to be solved. So you've established that like, hey, identify the gap and set the problem. Before I go into feedback, I'm going to ask you one question, and I really hope this is seen as constructive criticism, and I want you to answer it honestly. Did you read that?
No, I didn't. I learned it. So
Okay, you learned it. So this is actually a problem I've had before. Sometimes I sound so smooth that it almost sounds like I'm reading it, right? And I mean, and that's it. Like, I mean, people, investors, like if they start to think that you're reading, I mean, you'll go to these pitch rooms and how many people say, did you read that? That's really, so I almost had to build places where it sounds like, I mean, when I say no code, low cost and lightning speed, by the way, Brashna means lightning in my mother tongue, which is Pashto. I'm originally from Pakistan. I add conversational elements. You're almost so good at it that it sounds, too rehearsed, right? And everything. So it's almost like the human connection. Like at some point I was like, this is like a news broadcaster that's like reading teleprompter. He's so good, right? So I'm disconnecting. So it's a very minor thing, but it's like your pitch is all about the human connection, right? So like try to build in a hook or something that kind of brings the human back to you. But anyways, that's just something to think about. Then again, I think this is maybe the reason for this is because you guys are like practicing these pitches for a demo day, which is targeted at the technical audience. That's totally fine, so this pitch works. But think about like, you were like, we're using an interoperable business model. Think about those words. Like, what does that mean, right? Like interoperable across platforms. Like, am I thinking phones and desktops? Am I thinking interoperable across super apps? Am I thinking interoperable business model, like B2C versus B2B? It's just like when you guys go through your pitches, like literally think about words that add no value, but just make you sound smart, and remove them because they don't make you sound smart, right? It's like they almost like they do you more, because then I'm just thinking now I'm stuck here on interoperable while you've gone through the next 10 seconds of really valuable information, which I'm like, I just missed that because I'm just here thinking, what does Uzair know? Like I feel dumb, but now I'm like trying to not feel dumb. So I'm just going into this whole loop of what is interoperable business model, right? And everything. So I'm in the tech sector. I don't know what that means, right? And everything, but maybe you do. And you can educate me in my 20-minute phone call that we're going to have, but the 60-second pitch is not the place to do it. Okay. Then I actually really liked how you like went through your traction. You're like, this is what we're doing, this is what we built and all of that. I would stay away from the $100 million valuation in 3 years. Because the problem with that is you can say, like I often say, I'm building a decacorn. Canva is valued at $40 billion. Inshallah, I know exactly the clothes I'm going to wear, the speech I'm going to give at the IPO at New York Stock Exchange, right? Inshallah, I know all of that, and it's going to be a decacorn. But the problem with this like midterm goal is like, so you didn't tell me what your valuation is today. I don't think, like I missed that because I got so stuck on the 100 million. But you told me in 3 years, you're aiming for 100 million. So now what that tells me is, okay, so what happens after that? Like, I mean, are we done? Like 100 million, is that a series A? Is that a series B? Is that exit? It's like, I mean, the 3 million, it didn't give me anything. So rather than the valuation you're aiming for, because that is the price of your product.
Right.
Where your product is going to be. And I think you said that. You were like 650 merchants. We're expanding outside of Pakistan. I mean, actually, Salman had did this where he was like, this is the eventual, like, 10.6%, and then we're going to be having a revenue. Revenue is a good target to give. Valuation is just interesting because investors have a lot of feelings about valuation. That is actually going to be the pain point that you're going to bargain on, right? Like, if you think about it, when you go to buy something, if the person off the bat is like, today, this thing is this, and then it's going to be $70, all of a sudden you're like, now you're just thinking about price. You've put them in negotiation mode even before you built a relationship with them. So I
Right.
would say walk away from valuation targets, stick to revenue targets, user growth targets. It's really good to have those ambitions, and then not a valuation, but be like, I'm going to exit as a unicorn. I'm going to be Pakistan. I am going to be, inshallah, the first woman from Pakistan to build a decacorn. That's what I'm doing. Are you in or not? Right? Like that shows ambition, but it doesn't, like 100 million valuation. Some people think it's too high. Some people think it's too low.
Yeah.
You've just like left it in a whole thing. So yeah, that's my
Right.
feedback. But I think great pitch, great product that you're building. Congratulations. Actually would love to talk both to Salman and Uzair offline if you guys want. On
Perfect.
tourism games, we have something, and Uzair on the super apps. Would love to talk. This is why I do this, because I want to make good connections. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that's
Thank you.
good job. But yeah, hope this is useful.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and good job. All right, so the next pitch is by Roma. Roma, if you could come online, put on your video and ready when you are. Okay. Fantastic.
Can you hear,
Okay, sir.
guys hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right.
Here.
Okay, Roma, are you ready?
Yes, let me turn on my timer as well. Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Okay, so your time starts now.
Hello everyone, I am Roma Ahmed, and today I'm thrilled to introduce you to something truly special, jewelry line. Imagine a world where luxury is not out of reach, where you can own stunning gold-like jewelry that does not just look good, but makes you feel extraordinary, all without breaking the bank. That's the world we are creating, and we are doing it digitally. At Jewelry Line, we are not just selling jewelry, we are democratizing it. We are working on a 3D virtual store and AR try-on feature, making the experience exciting, immersive, and accessible. You can explore, try it on before you buy, and fall in love with our pieces, all from the comfort of your home. And the world is taking notice. We have 86,000 visitors to our website annually and 66,000 Instagram followers and over 2,500 loyal customers. But numbers only tell part of our story. Our brand ranks #1 on Google for the keyword jewelry, and a testament to the trust we have earned and the impact we have made. Financially, we have been rock solid since day one. Started with $200. Now we generate $35,000 in annual revenue with an average order value of $70 and a CAC of just $7. And here's the kicker. Our prices are 50% lower than our competitors, making us the go-to choice for the affordable jewelry. But we are not stopping here. We are ready to take the jewelry line to the world stage. That's why we are seeking funding to expand internationally and bring our unique blend of luxury and accessibility to even more people around the globe. So join us in this exciting journey together. Let's make luxury something everyone can experience. Thank you.
Thank you. So 8 seconds left. Good job on that. Mariam, over to you for the feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I go into that, Kamran, I know we have 7 minutes left, but I'm happy to stay a little bit over because I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to pitch. So if they're ready, if they're willing to spend a little bit more of their time during the evening, I'm willing to do that as well. Otherwise, we can do something when I'm in Islamabad. Just want to put that on your radar so you can plan.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Great pitch. I will say off the bat, I have a bias for female founders. No surprise there. So great pitch. Super excited to see you as one of the startups pitching. I think we need more of that. So kudos to you. I really liked, when you started, you were like, okay, gold-like jewelry, like, it's like, makes you feel spectacular, feels fabulous. Like, that would work really well there was you were sparking an emotion in me. I don't wear jewelry often. I barely end up wearing my wedding ring, but it's like, I think it's really important because even as someone who doesn't wear jewelry, I was resonating with that emotion of, oh, that's so cool. Like, I feel like that would be spectacular, like really beautiful pieces. I also love the product placement that you have going. Like, you have the virtual background, has all of your pieces in it. So you're sparking that emotion already and everything, right? So it's like, Like one of the things I do is like, I mean, I really put in, I mean, it's not a virtual background, but like I put in a lightning bolt, which is always a conversation starter. People are like, oh, that bolt, lightning bolt, what does that mean? I'm like, well, let me tell you, Prashna means lightning. So it's like, it's not just you, it's everything that you create around you, right? Now, I think what was really cool when you started off and you were like, well, these like gold, like jewelry and everything, like that's what we're doing. In my mind, what is that? Tesoro or something in Pakistan. I was like, oh, this is like Tesoro, right? And everything. And then the minute you were like digitally, I was like, all right, that's her competitive advantage, yeah, right? And then you were like, I'm going to make a 3D virtual environment. That's how we're doing it. And then you said 86,000 website visits, that was really cool and everything. Over there, you can actually put in your monthly recurring revenue right there. So you can almost like count them off, right? Because when you're building, you've already impressed me with your website visits, with your Instagram followers. Put your revenue right there when I'm already thinking about your traction, right? Like why? Because then I'm like, oh, but she's only followers, vanity metrics. Like I wonder what her revenue is. And then you can come right there. You can be like, you know what? It's actually 35K ARR, $70 average value, $7 CAC. I remember those things. And that's the value of numbers, the way they're presented. I remembered your numbers, right? And everything, because you presented them in a easily digestible boom, boom, boom. The one thing I didn't know was you were like, since day one. What does that mean for me? Day one of, when was day one? Was it yesterday? Was it 2 years ago? Was it 5 years ago? Like, I don't know your day one, right? So when I say that, I'd say since inception 3 years ago. So I've set the bar. So I'm like, okay, go ahead, compare me to other startups you've seen 3 years ago, but you need to set some kind of a benchmark for this and everything. The other thing that I think was a little bit, so I'm always looking for fluff, right? The other thing that was a little bit fluff was, I think that like we ranked the highest in Google Ads, like that almost sound like, I mean, because you were like, it's not just about numbers, it's a story. And I was like, oh wow, like we're gonna take it up, but we actually took it down. Like ranking highest on Google Ads or something. I don't know in what region. I don't know how much you're paying for that, right? It's like, I mean, I couldn't contextualize it. So I went from being impressed to actually coming down when you wanted to take me higher, right? So you could have backed that up with your revenue numbers. Of being like, hey, it's not just about vanity metrics and followers. I know what you're thinking, investor. It's actually about the money in my bank. I am already profitable. I have $35,000 in annual revenue and my cost of operations is this or whatever, like, your CAC and all of that. Go with that, right? And if it's a story, then build a story. Be like, let me tell you about this one person that I empowered, this one bride who felt so empowered, who was in Multan, who like tried this jewelry that was in Karachi. She couldn't travel there. And now she feels like a goddess on her wedding day. I don't care what it is, but when you say it's not just about this, let me give you this, take it higher, don't take it lower. I think that's my piece of advice. Again, close it with something. I think you did a little bit like, let's make the whole world feel spectacular. Let's like, anything that's like, bring it back to the emotion. You guys all have really strong hooks. But it's almost like by the closing, you're tired of your own pitch. You're like so exhausted. You're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get this done. I am done with this. 60 seconds, you're exhausted. I'm exhausted, right? So it's like, bring me back to the high. Bring me back to, I am the person you want to invest in. There's literally no one else that you should be thinking about. Okay? Very cool.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback.
First.
All right. Thank you, Roma. All right. So we had 2 more pitches, but instead of actually have last pitch because one of the founder, she's got sick, so she was not able to pitch today. So it's the last pitch from my end, and I would like to invite Taha, if you are ready, if you could switch on your video, and then we can take it from there.
Now,
Okay.
hang on 1 second. Roma, if you could go off video so we give Taha all the spotlight he wants and needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And are you ready?
I mean, I just want to give an FYI. I'm not ready, but I'm gonna try to pitch because I have no short pitch practice at all.
No problem at all. So all the very best, and your time starts now.
Hi, I'm Taha Feroz, and last year I was visiting the Golden Gate Bridge, and I found out that someone chose to end their life by jumping off the very bridge. He was a 22-year-old, just got his job on Netflix, and it was an eye-opener for me. Someone who's so young and has so much ahead of them could see the only way forward was by ending their life. And that's when we started work on Sepwa. We wanted to bring the benefits of well-being to employees and also the productivity boost to these companies. When we started to look into how these organizations get these benefits, we were surprised to see that for every $1 invested into well-being, there's a $4 ROI for organizations. Burnout on employees are over twice as likely to quit when they get a chance. And we wanted to understand better what are the problems for organizations. We talked to 20 large companies, including GE, Cream, and Zong. And we wanted to understand what are their main challenges so we can better build a product that will provide that productivity and well-being. Feedback, satisfaction, engagement, and productivity were all main key concerns and challenges that these HR departments were trying to fix. However, their tools weren't as adequate to provide success in them. So we're building Sepwa, which is a platform where your employees will have well-being sessions with Amber to get a better understanding of what challenges they're facing and have these conversations, which are natural. Being a trusted third party, employees will have much better comfort by talking to Amber, and they'll get coaching on how they can improve themselves. We then go through these conversations and anonymize and aggregate them to provide better insights about where your organization currently stands with their employees. We then give you a knowledge base and a dashboard so you can better take these decisions and make better policies. Our pricing model is per employee per month, and we have feature-based tiers and value-added add-ons. We're Delaware C Corp Incorporated. Our POC has been tested. We have 19 customer discoveries. Our MVP will be done by August. Pilot onboarding starts mid-September, and we're planning for a complete launch by December. Our advisor is Aaron Wolf. He's the seed investor of WhatsApp and founder of Yahoo Games. Thank you. I wanted to ask for pilot testers, but unfortunately ran out of time.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Taha. So over to you, Maria, for the feedback, please.
So Taha, if you're saying this is not prepared, that's a very good not prepared pitch. And I almost think like, you could be like, hey, I'm not super ready. It's almost like, to me, I'm like, did you just say that, or did you actually like mean that, right? So it's like, I mean, it's also like a matter of like building that, I mean, again, this is what I meant by like reading it or like sounding too smooth. You almost, because I was reaching out in like you built my empathy in the beginning where you were like, hey, I'm not really good at this. I don't do this. This is not my jam. I'm not prepared at it. And then you went into it, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, wait, bro, like, I mean, what was that, right? And everything. So it's like, it's almost like, I would almost be like, hey, I'm not feeling super confident today. I'm feeling a little nervous. I've only done this a couple of times. Like maybe a different way, because I actually think that that was very well done. And you could have done without your initial disclaimer, because then that doesn't build a trust between you and I, right?
No, that was genuine. I was practicing the entire time while you were speaking, trying to but I couldn't. So I couldn't go beyond my third slide while practicing.
So maybe that's one way to say it, is like, hey, while listening to you, I was practicing the whole time, but this is just like new. But anyways, that was really well done, and something that everyone else should take note of. Taha, that initial story is exactly like, that's a tearjerker. We've all seen that happen somewhere, right? But we're like, this person's life was perfect on paper. What happened, right? And I think like leveraging that story, that emotion, again, you sparked an emotion. Roma sparked an emotion of joy and sparkle and jewelry and feeling fabulous. You sparked an emotion of, this tragedy that could be avoided if only people were able to use Amber, right? And everything. That's another question. Is your product called Amber?
Yeah, so the main product name is Sepwa, but you talk to Amber, which is the coach who talks to you. And
so that's an important, I don't even think I heard Sepwa, right? Like I only heard Amber. So if you want to do that, like I actually do that on purpose. The company is Grid. The product is Breshna. I never mention Grid because I don't want to. But if you want, because I want people Googling Breshna. What do you want people Googling? Amber or Sepwa, right? Like whichever one it is, mention that. That's an important
you guys have a whole FAQ for Grid on your website. I was reading through it. There were like two kinds of grids, which is one is one grid and that's another grid.
Exactly, but not everyone does that effort, right? So we just stick with Rashna because we're like, okay, there's a legal reason, blah, blah, blah. The one thing you did really well, Taha, that at least resonates with a person like me is you were like, MVP build, boom, 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 traction, traction, traction. You literally were bulleting it off, right? For me and everything. And you also bulleted off in that a Delaware-based C Corp. That's a really good thing because now as a you, I'm already like, oh, thinking about like, you know, the next step of this is if I invest, I don't have to worry about domiciles. This is a competitive edge. Unfortunately, investors think about like legal regulatory compliance. I've heard so many investors that are interested in Pakistan that can't invest in Pakistani startups because of the regulatory environment. You've already kind of alleviated that, right? So you use that as part of your traction. Another thing that you did that was beautifully done at the very beginning was you were like, we talked to GE, we talked to Zong, we talked to these people. So you're that minimum viable community. You started building that upfront and everything, right? You were like, I'm going to understand this problem. Let me get to it better. But I do think every single one of you is almost spending, like by the time you mention your product, it's almost like it's 45 seconds down, right? So maybe you just want to do something where you bring, like you're spending so much time on the problem. Once you've established the problem, move on. Like the nuances of the problem you can do later. But yeah, I think really well done, especially if you're just building the pitch. It's a really good pitch. It's coming together. And I think mental health is something that's such an important, you know, topic. So I mean, I felt like that was great. Like honestly, I have to say, Kamran, kudos to you guys and kudos to the curriculum you guys have because these are very well done pitches. Like I've heard US pitches, I've heard global pitches. I mean, you know, again, Web Summit Qatar, we were #1 out of 1,000 startups. I've heard a lot of pitches and these are really high quality pitches. So congrats to you guys.
That's glad to have, if you know, if you're giving this feedback, then I think you must be doing something right. But then it's all to these guys' efforts. It's not, you know, we don't take any credit. It's all their hard work. And we just guide them and they just follow and the result is in front of you. So I'm glad to hear this feedback. If we don't have much time because I think you have to go on a meeting, but we can take a couple of questions. If anybody has any questions, they can either write it down or they can raise their hand. And then we could take it from there. One question because, you know,
No, I don't have any questions.
don't have any questions. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Okay.
Imran, is actually two very quickly that we can just go to. I think Zahid mentioned something. Elevator pitch is mostly said to be 15 to 20 seconds. Again, doesn't matter. It could be a single line. Again, you should have your single line. What you call it doesn't matter. Whether you call it elevator pitch, whatever you call it, you should have your one-liner. My one-liner, you know, when you're at a networking event, you're talking to people. They're like, hey, hi, how are you? I'm like, hey, I'm great. What do you do? I don't go into the full 2-minute pitch. Like, that's going to be bizarre. They're going to be like, woman, what is wrong with you? I'm like, hey, guys, thanks so much. I'm Mariam Nusrat. I'm the founder and CEO of Rashna.io. It's a no-code game maker platform. Almost think of it like the Canva for video games. Boom, that's it, you know? Then let them get intrigued. They're like, Canva for games, that sounds very interesting. Or they don't get it. And then I know what to go off of after that. So I can be like, you know, do you believe in the power of games? Blah, blah, or they'll be like, tell me more about it, or they'll walk off and that's fine too, right? And everything. But yes, not everything is an elevate. It doesn't matter what you call it. Just have your one-liner, your 60-second, all of that stuff lined up. Then we have a really interesting question from Afaf, who's like, if there isn't any problem or solution, we're a game studio, we're in the process of raising funds for AA game. AA games are solving a very large problem, which is an entertainment problem, right? Like there is no world where you don't have to be solving world hunger to be like, I have a problem and a solution, right? Like you could be, or actually, why are you building a AA game? If you truly believe that there are all, like maybe you're building a AA game that has Pakistani characters. Maybe you're building a AA game that has a different kind of genre. You've clearly seen something that's missing in the market. That's like, hey, there's an entertainment category that we don't see addressed. So I don't think any of you has a solution that doesn't solve a problem. And if that is truly the case, guys, I would then sit back and maybe think. And the problem does not have to be a world peace problem, but it has to be a gap that you're solving. So please do that, because I think that is important. But you can be addressing entertainment gaps, whatever it is. Like, for instance, jewelry is not there's no reason for someone to be like, well, I really need this jewelry, otherwise I won't be able to feed myself today. But everyone wants to feel spectacular and fabulous, and that's what Roma is doing. So I think that's powerful. How do you explain a technical idea to non-technical people? This is literally the most important thing. If you are not able to dumb this down to a 4-year-old level, you are failing. Okay, that is not on the person. If they can't understand what you're saying, that is a you problem. That's not a them problem. So please, please, please learn to dumb things down and explain them in a non-technical way. Even if it's like AI, even if it's deep robotics, even if it's deep tech, everyone is able to explain it in a non-technical way. Honestly, if you can't do it, tell ChatGPT to do it for you. Guys, literally, you have AI at your hands. Like, if you just give it your pitch and be like, explain this to me as you would to a 4-year-old. Let's see what ChatGPT says. And then if you don't like it, be like, dumb it down more, dumb it down more. Let's see what it comes up with. Ask your friends, ask your 6-year-old cousin, tell them what you built, and then have them reverse pitch it to you. There is no such thing as too technical a pitch. Awesome. Very cool.
Roma is raising her hand. So Roma, your question?
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions, and it would be great if we can get in touch afterward as well. So first question is, what's the right time to ask for funding? Second, and in what kind of pitch can we include the ask? Third is, I'm going to Shark Tank Pakistan, so I have a lot of questions. How do I build up a story and everything? So that would I'd like you to give some feedback on that as well, maybe later.
Okay, so good questions, but so one of the things, Roma, I'll give feedback on is help me help you. I got your first question, I got your second question, and then the third one was just like, you're like, I'm on Shark Tank Pakistan and I want you to help me. I was like, I have no idea what's going on, right? It's like, I mean, you lost me there, and now because of that, I've forgotten your first two questions, right? So it's like, so first repeat your questions in a way that I remember them, and I'm telling you exactly how my brain's reacting to them. Maybe it's a Monday morning, maybe whatever it is, but that's just how humans work, right? And everything. So I've shared my email in the chat for everyone. So your first question was, when should you ask for funding? Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So when should you ask for funding, guys? There's different people that you're asking for funding at different stages. Angels and accelerators are at the very beginning. Accelerators are something like, programs like NIC. I think there's a few others in Pakistan that you go to, whether it's YC or Techstars or whatever it is. Those are programs with cohorts that you go through and you get funding. Angels are people that put in their own money into your. Angel could be your cousin, your grandparents, your uncle, or people on your Instagram community. And this is like, one way of doing a friends and family round. Just be careful of like regulation, accredited investors. I don't know the Pakistan market as well, but in the US, for instance, you have to be an accredited investor to be a direct investor. But then there's equity crowdfunding platforms like Republic and, WeFunder, where normal people can invest. So we actually ran an equity crowdfunding for Brashna, where we had people could invest in Brashna for as low as $100 when we were starting off, because we were like, we have all these friends, all these family that are not accredited investors. Like they don't have $1 million in net wealth, but they want to be a part of what I'm building. So how do I give them an opportunity? So whether you're running a Kickstarter, GoFundMe, or an equity crowdfunding campaign, those are again other options. If you're going to Startup Pakistan, I think they have Shark Tank Pakistan. I think they have their own models, so understand your audience. And guys, what's really important to understand about VCs is VCs are putting someone else's money. So VCs fundraise in the same way that we fundraise. They have to answer to their LPs the exact same way that we do. So be very, very wary of what the VC, think like the VC. That's why I'm like, the VC does not owe you anything, right? This is not charity. They've had 100 other startups in their inbox. Think like them. So think about, I actually go on VCs and I look at their return profiles. What if they promise their LPs, and how am I going to help them get to those goals, right? So startups, I think often founders are like, here's my world, this is the world I'm building in, and then this is it, right? But you operate in a universe, you have a whole context around you. The more you learn about that, the more you understand it, the more you understand people's motivations, the more give first, and you will be surprised at how much comes back to you. So yeah, I mean, I hope that's useful. Different people, different fundraising stages, different asks.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
I'll get in touch with you.
And anyone can email me and then we can jump on a call if you guys want a deeper dive.
All
Oh,
right.
to get rid of the pressure, Superman pose, Google it, guys. I swear it works. Take a couple of deep breaths. Feel like a Superman. Literally, I've done this. I've had so many ridiculous pictures of me standing backstage on my TEDx talks and stuff, like a Superman. I love that. And then rambling, the best thing to do is if you're losing interest, if you're bored by your own conversation, they're bored, right? Stop. Take a pause. If they come in, good, let them, because you've already rambled too long. I ramble a lot, and I have to remind myself again and again to be like, stop, listen, then take feedback. But yeah.
Fantastic. I think we don't have any other questions. So I think I'm going to throw the last question of the day, just for say hi corporate. One of our founders is here with me, and I think he should have asked this question. So Rehan is with us. The problem with Rehan is that he's very experienced person in insurance industry. Now we don't know the jargons of insurance industry. He knows it. His customers knows it. So when he talks to his customers, Rehan, if you want to join in this question, you can, they get it. But when he's pitching to investor, they don't get it. Now, how can he solve this problem? Rehan, if you want to add something into it?
Says no.
If Rehan
Yes,
is-
definitely,
yeah.
Garman. Thanks for handing it over to me. So yeah, first of all, Mariam, great stuff, very relevant, and I think all of us can relate with whatever you're telling us. So yeah, so as Kamran said, so my dilemma rather is that, so what I'm doing, I'm kind of, making insurance, breaking it down for the common people, right? Because in emerging market, it's like, over 95% people do not have access to insurance. So what we are doing, we are simplifying it. And my product basically is a business idea where we are kind of, changing the way insurance is offered. And then as a result of this, business model, there are like, propositions. For instance, we did like, the world first anti-harassment insurance, right? And we got like recognized by a global player as well, like, InsurTech Insights from London and so on. So I am stuck in the thing that I kind of, talk about the business model I am in, and a lot of people, because insurance is not very popular in this market. So for instance, when I talk to someone from West, so they get it, right? But when I'm talking to someone in emerging market, I mean, all the judges we get to, interact with at NIC, so they because they don't have insurance experience in their own lives, so they don't get it, right? But when I talk about some particular use case, then they understand. So that's the kind of, catch-22 for me. I don't want to get into the product discussion, rather, the business model. And that's where we are missing. And I totally agree with you that if they are not getting it, that it's not their problem. It's my problem. I have to dumb it down for them.
Rehan, I think you answered your own question, right? You said when you talk about the use case, they get it. Now, I know what you're talking about, because like on Breshna, teachers are only one use case of our platform. We are actually really leaning into brands. Like our really ideal persona is like Nestle, being able to make their own games where you're catching all of the Nestle juices and dodging everything else, right? Or something, or Cadbury or something. That's my ideal brand. But the problem is, I know that when I start going into that example, it becomes a little bit weeded, because then they're like, well, and then this brand and then that brand. So I stick to the teacher example. There is nothing wrong with picking a simpler use case to get your point across. And then again, remember, the purpose of the elevator pitch is just to get you on a phone call. No one is going to write you a check after a 2-minute pitch. That's not happening, right? What is the purpose of that elevator pitch? Is to just get you on a phone call with them, where then you have 20 minutes of their attention when they're going into the details of it. And that's where you can be like, here are 4 examples of how this insurance platform works. I actually think the way you were explaining it, like you had me. You're like, we've done the, like, we're breaking it down. We're changing how insurance works. We're democratizing it. I would have loved, I mean, the anti-harassment was an achievement. It wasn't a use case. So you can give use cases. I feel like insurance, what is insurance? It's the protection against uncertainty, right? So whatever it is that they don't understand, pick that word up, break it down. Then pick that word up, break it down. Then pick that, doesn't matter if you've lost it a little bit, that's okay. Because you are so in the weeds of it. Like sometimes people are like, oh, so I can build my own Roblox. And I'm like, now I've lost them. Like, what did I do? No, that's okay. I just started a conversation. I'll tell them, I'll be like, yeah, Roblox is awesome. Roblox is open world. We're building hyper casual games because guess what? The average gamer is a 36-year-old woman playing Candy Crush on the metro. I bring them back into the power of hyper casual games, right? So use every opportunity. Don't worry that you've lost them, but use every opportunity to spark that conversation. So I would say that's okay. I mean, if you think use cases are working, lean into the use cases, leverage them, and that's totally fine. Guys, one last thing I'll share. On the investor calls front, I got on 219 investor phone calls to get 29 yeses. This is a numbers game. This is a hustle and a grind thing. No one is doing this like that, right? I mean, unless you're a serial entrepreneur who's had 3 exits already under your belt, no one is, especially in this market, no one is writing checks out of the gate. And in most of those, I actually didn't use my pitch deck. So I sent my pitch deck before my call with them. And this is a whole other session we can do. I don't do NDAs. I don't ask, please don't ask for an NDA. For the love of God, don't ask for an NDA. You sound so self-obsessed and so conceited when you're like, sign an NDA because my idea is the best idea. They've probably heard it 10 other times, okay? You are not, ideas, anyone who's had a shower has had an idea. No one is stealing your idea. People cannot steal your execution. Everyone can steal your idea. Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, they're all the same idea. People cannot steal your execution. That's what matters, okay? No NDAs, send them the pitch deck, get on the call, get the deal signed. We can do a whole session on that later, but I hope this was useful. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. Founder journey, it's a hard journey. It's an isolating journey. You need a lot of courage, but there are so many people that are doing this, and there is no reason. If I can do it, there is literally no reason why you guys can't do it. So absolutely, all you need to do, just one thing, show up every single day. Doesn't matter if you show up at 10% or 80% or 100%. You don't have to be an overachiever every single day. Just show up, just do something, and that's all that's needed.
Thank you very much for a very interesting interactive session, Mariam. I know it's Monday morning at your end, and Monday is always busy for you, right? But you took the time out for us, and I hope our startups and all those, because it was an open, session. So a lot of people, apart from NIC startups, also attended. And I hope it was valuable for them to learn about you and on the topic of anatomy of a killer pitch. We would love to have you with us here at NIC Islamabad once you're here, and we're looking forward to have that interaction. Thank you very much once again for your time, and really appreciate it. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much. My LinkedIn is in the chat if anyone wants to connect. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.